Hello everybody. In this video I'll be showing a little bit of progress on my room that I've been working for the past 2 months. So yeah, I'll be explaining on what I do and how I do it in this video along as it goes. So if you're interested in either figuring out what my room is about or just general chip knowledge in Rec Room, I'd say you'd rather stick around. Anyways, enjoy the video. So every time I go into a session inside a Rec Room and I try to create something, I always think of the first plan, which is how to keep the player entertained, which is my primary objective for this game. I want the players to be coming back to this game actually having something to do. So I don't want the players to come into the room, play it once, and then leave, never come back. So I feel like the best way to do that would to be create reoccurring missions and love from the NPCs. So what I do here first is I pull out an interaction volume and I delete the excess inputs and outputs on the chip so my room has more space to work with. Also, it looks more organized. After that, I spawn in a prompt local player chip, which will be used in a second to input the commands that the player wants to talk to the NPC. What I do next here is I go into my maker pen, I take one if chip and I take one boolean variable, which is later going to be turned into a cloud variable chip so I could remember whether the player has either done the mission or has yet to do the mission. This is going to be a one-time mission, so it's not going to be repeatable. That's why I want to remember the player doing it. Afterwards, I decide to get rid of the prompt local player chip because I'm going to use it for something else in the future. But for now, I just delete it and I wire the interaction volume straight into the bool variable. The way you display text at the bottom of the player's screen is using a show local subtitle chip, which is basically I can enter anything into the chip, and once the chip gets triggered, it will say a line of text at the bottom of your screen, which as you can see right now happens with the time and reputation. So here I remembered that I gotta lock the interaction volume once the player first time clicks with the NPC. This is to prevent both spam and annoyance of other players and also wasting resources in the room. As you can see, I tried making space for a chip here, but it ended up not being enough, so I just make a little bit more space and that should be enough. So I go back into my maker pen here and I search for a delay chip. A delay chip will be used after the conversation with the NPC is over, that it unlocks the interaction volume so you could speak to the NPC again. The delay is set to the duration of the show local subtitle chip, which means that after the text is done displaying, the delay will fire a cancel input because that's what it's wired into, and therefore will unlock the interaction volume. If you are wondering why I copied the show local subtitle and the delay chip 4 more times, is considering I will be writing story in them, so every time the text is finished displaying, a new text will pop up until the point I decide to give the player the mission. Afterwards, I renamed the boolean variable chip into an ANA quest chip so I can just keep easier track of what's happening on my chipboard. So over here, I decide to clone the boolean chip in order to give out the player the mission. The way I do that is I unwire the chip from itself and I set the input value to be true. which means that once the conversation with the NPC is over, an execution will be triggered, which would set the Ana quest chip to be true. Therefore, the next time a player interacts with the NPC, the if chip will put out a true value, therefore it will act like the mission is currently active. I won't really be showing you what I write here, considering most of you probably don't want to watch it, and I don't want to reveal the story too much, so I'm just gonna speed up through this part and we'll go to the next one. So on this part, I decide it would probably be a good idea to let the player choose whether he wants to help the NPC or not. And the way I do that is with the prompt local player chip from the beginning. So what I spawn in from my maker pen next is called an execution string switch, which is basically paired up with another result of a string, which is the purple values you can see over here, and that value is matched in the execution string switch. So what the execution string chip does is it takes the response from the prompt local player and matches it with any other response I give the value to. So for example, I give the value of 1 and 2 to compare it, and if the player either enters 1 or 2, the execution will be triggered depending on what the player entered. If none of the others are entered and there is no matching value, it will output a failed value. So there is a very useful chip that I started using most of the time now. It's called a reroute chip. And what it does is reroutes one value, so you can basically make stuff look more organized. So that's what I want to do here. I don't like the yellow wire going through every other chip. So what I do is I take multiple reroute chips and I kind of redirect the flow of them so they look more pretty and organized. I decide I want to make more space here, considering I won't have enough to make the whole mission function properly, because the mission still has to check whether you have done the mission before or you haven't. So for the next 20 minutes, I basically rearranged some chips, I added in the factor of the primary objective, I added in the fact that the player hasn't done the mission before, I added some text, I tested a few bugs every now and then, I fixed some issues that I didn't see before, I fixed some grammatic spelling errors. So after 20 long minutes of work, this is my first time actually testing it. The one issue I ran into is that at the end of the mission, there was no indicator that you got rewarded for completing it. Basically, after I cloned the chip, I forgot to rename the text and change what's written inside of it, so the text was exactly the same and nothing was happening. So all I did was basically just retext what it said in the chip so you know how much reputation you got. So after one more session of testing to see if everything works, it finally paid off. After I test that everything works fine and there is no bugs or grammatic spelling errors, I decide to delete the excess buttons and chips I don't need, select every other component I will need, and decide to move them to my wall of chips. Just quickly before the video ends, I just want to thank you once again for watching the video, and if you did like it, I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting more stuff like this, maybe updates, maybe just regular gameplay. Who knows? We'll see from there. But yeah, hopefully you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.